Usually I'm gonna get in trouble tonight. I'll feel sound just like I do. It's been one of those days.
Little pressure off me.
You got it.
I'm rooting for you. I am rooting for you.
We'll just jump right in there. We just all go into it.
6 o'clock, I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. Let's stand and pledge allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would need a motion and a second to approve tonight's agenda.
We need to make an addition to the agenda, and it would be 11A, approved trans systems, formerly SEPI, contract services.
It says 12A.
Hmm.
It's 12A on the mail down.
Oh, it doesn't matter, whichever way you'd rather do it. 11A is okay.
I need a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of 11A for trans system.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion does carry. Approval of February 6th, February 9th, April 3rd, April 19th, July the 10th, August the 7th, 2023 minutes. I would need a motion and a second to approve that also.
If we have any questions about any of the minutes, do we need to address that now or wait until we get down to commissioners' concerns?
I would say
Now.
now.
Okay. I just I just need refreshing on my mind, and I noticed sometimes it doesn't really have to do with the minutes, but it just made me think of questions that from these meetings. For example, on February the 6th, it was announced that Tanya Holt was not going to be able to serve on planning and zoning, and do we have a replacement for her yet? On Parks and Rec, they only have 6 members, and it says that they need 7. And that, I had those questions, and then I was looking back at the Handy Sanitary District Manager on April 3rd was supposed to come in May, but I think something happened. It just is, for me, it was hard to kind of get my sequence of events, and I wasn't sure what had been passed, what had not been passed. There was, I think also in the February 6th meeting, there was that presentation about making the changes to the different, I can't think of the word for it, but about the alcohol issue. Did that come back for us to approve it? So it's just those kinds of questions. That's the reason I wasn't sure if now was the time to talk about it.
During this item, it would be if you have any changes to the printed minutes. If there's
Okay.
anything that you feel like is not correct or would not be for approval, that's when this would be made.
Okay.
The other things we would address
Okay.
later. Yeah.
And so all mine's for later.
I make a motion to approve the minutes, I'm afraid. Second.
Any further discussion on that item? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Public comment. Citizens may speak on items not listed on the printed agenda. Please state your name and address and observe the 3-minute time limit. Do we have anyone signed up for tonight? No one? Okay, moving right along. Presentation honoring the late Stan Bingham, U.S. Senator, Imogene Morris.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, and audience, it's my privilege and honor to be here tonight to pay tribute to our North Carolina State Senator, the late Stan Walker Bingham. Through the years, we meet people who leave their footprints on our heart. Stan was most certainly one of those people to leave his footsteps on our heart. He was a man of integrity, compassion, character, and a heart to serve his people, to serve his community, and to serve his state. When going into his office, among all the papers and all the records, there will always be an empty chair. Have a seat, make yourself comfortable. What can I help you with today? Or how can I help you? Always to make you feel so welcome and so comfortable and at ease. As we would carry on a conversation and discuss our concerns, he would make you feel that you are the most important person in all time. Stan had a passion for helping people to have a more comfortable life, among other things. He would help people with his own resources and his generosity, making those people have a feeling of hope and purpose. As Maya Angelou said in 1993, at President Clinton's inauguration address, and I quote, "People will forget what you say, people will forget what you do, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And as Abraham Lincoln said, in the end, it's not the years of life that you live, it is the life that you live and the number of years that you live. Stan Bingham lived the fullest to his life and the life that he lived. Stan did not reach his pinnacle by himself. He had the love and support of his wife and family in all of his endeavors and his successes. Laura, would you come up, please? It is my honor to present to you this framed article from the Denton Orator as my gift to you and your family, and at some point for you to gift it back to the Town of Denton Museum to memorialize this man, the Honorable Stan Walker Bingham, my country neighbor.
Thank you so much for those words. Approved basic law enforcement training sponsorship agreement. Call on Town Manager Angela Jenkins.
Mayor, Commissioners, we met last week in a special call meeting to review the policy for our BLET program that we currently had. We did some upgrades to that, and what is before you is that finalized statement. Just a few words that were tweaked in the section regarding, I think it was section 4 and 5, basically that we would do a sponsorship for BLET candidates that would also pay for their salary while they are in BLET, and also their tuition and required votes for the program. And then upon your approval tonight, we'll go ahead and let Chief James know that he can move forward with the testing for those candidates that he has that would like to apply for that program. Any questions on it?
We approved one for the budget, right?
That's what we did at the special meeting. Yep, absolutely. Are there any other questions?
Approve this, we need a motion in a second.
Mr. Mayor, I so move.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion on this issue? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Consideration to update town ordinance. Excuse me, resolution R 2022-3324-07 to approve surplus properties for public works.
We have before you a request for surplus property coming from our Public Works Department. It is 3 items that they are no longer using. One is a tilt trailer, concrete mixer, and a drum roller. And we would list those on Gov Deals and process those out through the public auction after we do the other. We do have some other items that we'll be bringing to the next meeting, but that's all that we have for tonight.
The generators and Massey Ferguson, is that gonna be?
That'll be at the next meeting.
The bush hog looks like it's on the last leg. Great day.
It's actually a tilt trailer.
It looks that bad.
I believe we got our money's worth out of that. I do a motion in a second to approve.
I make a motion that we would approve the surplus property as described by Public Works.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Consideration to update town ordinance, chapter 10, general administration. Article A, disorderly conduct, and Article B, general nuisance. And I'm calling our town manager.
In your board packets that you received on Friday, there's a copy of our current town ordinance that describes disorderly conduct and public nuisance. And the one major section that we want to really look at is section 2 on vagrancy. This is a growing concern for our town. I speak for saying countywide. In bringing this before you tonight, we met with Chief James, talked with Attorney Whitman regarding this, and there are many things that probably need to be addressed in this ordinance as far as being updated. Wanted to bring it before you tonight just to let you know that this is a concern, and I'll turn it over to Attorney Whitman if she has anything to add to that.
I do. So I reviewed it, and the chief had reached out to me about whether or not, as it stands, if it really has any teeth, if it's enforceable, what we can do about it. And if you remember last year, there were some statutory changes because it was to decriminalize certain things that they felt were targeting impoverished people wrongfully. And so many statutes were updated at that time to take the criminal penalties away from it. So we have to be careful whenever we redo these to make sure that we don't cross any lines there. But you've got some options with regards to some of the things that are happening now. With your public parks, do they have posted signs for hours that they're open?
Yes.
What are their hours that they're open? you know,
It used
like
to
in
be,
Harrison Park.
If
it
I
used to
could,
be 12 o'clock, it's 10 now.
if I could just say that, there were signs up that said 6 a.m. to 12 midnight, and those have been removed because our park hours are actually 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay.
So those with the wrong times have been removed.
Okay. So having the signs up at the times are important, because that does give them a little bit of leverage to have people relocate that are there outside of those areas. But the other thing that we may want to consider, instead of doing it as a vagrancy ordinance, it may be that we want to pass an ordinance related to camping on town property, or residing on town property. We have to phrase it carefully as far as camping and loitering and make sure we define those terms appropriately. But what I need is some guidance from you as to what you want to see, and I will craft it to match the direction that you want to take with this to make sure that we fall within the guidelines of where we need to be. And I pulled some samples from some other jurisdictions to look at that have recently made changes that I thought I could give to you, perhaps that you could utilize in trying to give me direction here. But Angel had pulled, I think it was Valdez, and I pulled Fayetteville. I looked at one that Kernersville had recently done and one that Brevard had recently done. And so I can send all of those to you, but they're all kind of around the realm of kind of defining camping and prohibiting it in certain circumstances and in certain places and putting time limits on it. And the penalties there are typically a monetary penalty. You can't make it a jail time penalty. And of course, the monetary penalty then you can enforce, but in reality, there's not a lot of help there. But it does have a penalty there in case anything were to happen. But it does give them the power to at least remove the folks from the property who are violating. Now, if we want to then go further and deal with these encampments that are happening on private property, then that's something that you have to address differently as well. Put that into your zoning ordinance, that you can't have these encampments on private property unless they have express written permission from the owner, which they have to be able to provide, etc. So again, I just need some direction as to exactly how you want this to be handled, and then I can craft that into something that meets the current legal requirements.
The part on camping, if I'm not mistaken, during the festival, antique festival, we used to have one couple that would stay in their motorhome in our lot. Do they still do that? I mean, we want to be able to have some kind of leeway.
Certainly, and we can carve out exceptions in there for festivals and events, special events that allow it during that time. But this is just on a normal, ongoing basis, and we can make those exceptions.
The person you're speaking of, they used to bring their campers in for the lot across from the funeral home, and they have since retired from that. And then we have a gentleman who would park their RV at our impound lot during that period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a few years since they've been here, but like you said, that may be an option that we want to take advantage of during the festival time.
So we
Yeah, we
obviously
want to
need to
exclude it during that time.
And then some folks will actually, or some towns or cities have required that they don't charge for special event camping permits, but you just have to contact the city or town to get a permit to do it. So then they obviously, if they wanted to do that, they could contact and get their permit, which gave them permission to do it. So then you have a record of who has the right to be camping if you wanted to make that requirement.
You know, I'm assuming they asked to begin with.
Most of the time, they'll let us know that when they're doing the registration, and if it's something that's available. The only, the two times I can remember is Antiques Festival, and then of course when we used to have the Pirate Invasion, you know, it was a full encampment downtown, but they were permitted through their application to do that.
Other jurisdictions are handling some of these non-permitted, like tent cities, through the nuisance or public health violations, because they're encouraging sometimes unhealthy bourbon and things of that nature within it, because it's not regulated and processed appropriately. And sometimes sanitation issues arise. And so sometimes there's statutes that handle it and allow those to be removed after a certain amount of notice under those statutes or those ordinances. But I just need, again, some direction on how you will handle it. And we can grab you from there.
It's a long range.
It is, and it's a delicate, difficult issue. But right now, we really don't have anything that's enforceable.
I'm sure you're familiar with what Thomasville is doing.
So we're getting ready to redo the ones in Thomasville as well. We have committee meetings tomorrow, and they're going to be addressing some of these same issues and how to handle it. We did, I think Thomasville recently put some kind of restrictions in place as far as panhandling, that type thing. But we're still having some issues in Thomasville because Thomasville doesn't have a homeless shelter either. And so it can create a bit of an issue when sometimes you don't have places for folks to go. But I'm not saying that creating a homeless shelter is the answer either, because sometimes that only serves to bring in more of a population than it does necessarily help your existing ones. So I don't have the answers, but I will be happy to try to do what I can to assist with dealing with the issues that we do have. But yes, we're meeting to discuss them as well. So this is on the forefront of everything.
So you will send us.
I will send this to you, and then I'll be happy to share with you what Thomasville does as well. But you know, other than the carve out for special events, are there any other directions or concerns that you want me to take into consideration when looking at this?
I think the main thing we'll be able to move along. I think the money's gonna be anything either way. The main thing is just being able to,
Being able to remove them.
yeah.
Without crossing lines.
Okay. And right now, are the major issues on public property and not private?
Then on the boat, I think,
Yes.
state property.
Okay.
We had several of them out near a sewer plant a couple of years ago. There were several tents out there.
Well, and most of these ordinances, the new ones that are being written after the changes, they provide that you need to give them notice of available resources that can help them so they do have somewhere to go when you're actually giving them their time that they have to remove their belongings and move. So it is providing them with some resources if they don't have or know where to get the resources. Sometimes that doesn't help, but at least does give the information. Okay, so I will get that to you. I'll send it out this month, and then hopefully we can come up with a proposed ordinance for next month.
There's a group in town that came up with a resource sheet. It has about 20 different places in Davidson County where they can get medical help, where they can get food several times. Pretty nice.
We have those copies here at Town Hall.
Yeah, we'll have them at the next meeting.
That's wonderful.
Pretty good.
Nate, will you send that to me?
Anything else on this by anybody? Consideration and approval of business website proposal. Slam dot, Paula Hedrick and Elizabeth Elder.
You have before you a proposal where we have been working with a web-based designer. We had reached out initially to the designer of our current website, and he made some suggestions because the software that we're currently using is phasing out. So I tried to outline that in the letter that I provided along with this. I'm going to let Elizabeth speak on the information that SlamDot provided to us and what has drawn us to them specifically.
Thank you, Paula. I'm excited to be a part of this. By coming on full-time, it's given me more time to delve into this. This is a project we've looked into for quite a while now, but I'm excited that we're at least at this step. So yeah, we've included the business website proposal in your packets. From SlamDot, did you mention, well, Tavis Curry, who is our IT guy, we reached out to him. Do you have any suggestions? We've been shopping around. We've been looking at what other companies offer, and he suggested this company based in Knoxville, Tennessee. I reached out to them and was pleasantly surprised by what they are offering us. So, of course, I believe we all agree that the website needs an overhaul, and it has needed it for a while. So this is very exciting for the town, for the town's image, projecting what we do and not be out of date. But SlamDot is, they base on a WordPress format, which is user-friendly, and it's something that we can actually do in-house. In that proposal, I don't think there's pages, but about halfway through you'll see the packaging options and the pricing. What they're doing is they're going to build the website for us. They're going to take what is currently on our website, transfer it over, get us a running design, and they're going to give us just a little bit of training on that, and then we kind of take it from there. They're there for an IT situation for us.
We still update it.
We do. Everything that's on the website we do in-house.
And the price, does that cover everything, $4,600, or?
It does, yes. One issue that with other companies that we looked at was our emails. Almost everyone that is employed with the town has a town email. Some companies wouldn't support that, or they would only allow us 5, 6, less than 10 emails, and that's a very big issue because we're using those town emails. So we're actually going to be able to keep what we have with SiteGround, who we're currently with, and it's a seamless transition into this new website.
So Elizabeth, the only other charge in addition to this rate is the $50 a month posting fee. Is that correct?
There are some yearly, if you look down at the bottom of the chart on the left side of your page, there's a domain registration. Now, we own the domain. We own townofdenton.com. That $20 a year is, they're just putting that in there as they'll pay that for us. It's they pay it or we pay it. I mean, that's what it is. The SSL certificate, that's what you push on Google and the search engines. That's what kind of keeps you at the top, which is important and is not important. We're not selling something, as like an online store. But anyway, that is included there for the $49.
But you want to be able to be found.
You want to be able to be found, right? Because you're making payments. You're making lots of payments to the website, as you guys know. Yes. Is that a year? So about $459 to continue with the SiteGround to hold our emails, and also they are storing our emails since they are public record. We got to keep those and the information that they include. So right, what the price that you're looking at, the $46.69, that is building the new website, and then that's your design fee, and then they just do the annual.
There are other things for you.
Yes, correct. Yes.
Which we have those already.
That's correct. That will not change,
The build
basically.
website.
Do we have the budget for this, or would this require a budget amendment?
It will require a
Budget amendment.
Okay. At my business, I have encountered the same thing in terms of I have my domain is with one person, my website's with another person, my email's with another one,
Right.
and I'm working on trying to get mine merged as well. And it's not a cheap process, and it's not an easy process. And if you've got a company that is going to assist you in doing
part of that together, yes.
it's a whole lot better than trying to do it yourself. I finally found me an IT person.
Dang.
It's like my stress level went. So I understand. Do they have some sample websites that we might could view?
They do, yeah. Yeah, if you go on the Slam Talk website, yes, there are several, they've got a Johnstone type page, but, and they also included some in the proposal email that I can send out to you as well, but
I
if you
saw
wanted to
some of
look
the
at it.
testimonials, but I like it.
Yes, yes. Right. This is all mobile and tablet friendly, so, yeah, which is, you just have to have nowadays. If you get on a website on your phone and it's not mobile friendly, it's so frustrating. But yeah, that's included in all of this design as well.
Have they done other municipalities?
They are working. Paula and I had a conversation with them
They're
about that.
currently working on one as we speak, other than speaking with us about this.
They do have a utility company that's on their website that they have done, so I can see where, if it was a water utility company, it's not a municipality, but it is water utility. So, and of course, they're encouraging us to, look around. Are there things on other websites that we like? That would be a good tool, and yeah, we've been
sharing those.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you feel comfortable with this?
I like them. Yes, I do.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we approve this 4,600 and whatever it is,
4669.
4,669.
I'll second it.
Our website certainly needs some help.
Any further discussion on this? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you, Board.
Review departmental pay valuations. Town manager and
Everyone should have what she provided as far as the departmental pay. Spreadsheet.
So when we met last week, we talked about the need to look at our current pay scale for staffing and also looking at the possibility of reviewing departments at different times. So this year it was asked that we look at the police department, our water department, and our public works department. The meeting last week, you guys did an approval for increase to our police department for from the BLET trainee position all the way through the chief's position. And then what you have before you tonight is current information for the town, where we are based off of information from the study that we did last year. If you remember, Mr. Craver presented an increase in our minimums and maximums that looked at just where we were currently versus some of the smaller towns that staff like we do. I did reach out to Thomasville, Lexington, and Davidson County. Davidson County is hard because they don't really have a water plant, and then their public works, and as you see in Lexington too, it's hard to pull from other towns what their salaries are because they have such a wide range of staffing. They have, Thomasville has from laborer 1 all the way up until superintendent, but in between they have roads, they have meter readers, they have just regular labor. So it's hard to get someone like us who does everything and just trying to look at our county. But if you look at the pay state that's before you, I just dropped in what our current figures are for staffing. And then what's across the top in green is your minimum and maximum. And you can see where staff falls in that range. And then at the bottom, just looking at if you did percentages across the board, what you would want to look at for those departments. We do currently have, at the public works level, we have our public works director, we have a crew leader, and then we have 3 techs. One is considered a tech 2, and the other 2 kind of fall between a 1 and a 2. One has some experience and one has CDLs and one does not. So it's a little bit of a variance there as far as our current staff needs. The water plant, as you guys know, we are in the process of hiring someone as an ORC at the water plant. I had a phone interview this afternoon with a gentleman that's very promising, and I'll be going into more detail. He's going to stop by hopefully Monday on his way to his other job and do an interview with me. Very interesting individual, so I think it could be very promising. So, and knowing where we fall with the salaries will be helpful for that interview as well. Our former ORC, Jason Fouts, is finished. I met with him today and got idea of projects that need to be addressed at the water plant. And he's still helping out with some reporting and things like that. And we'll probably do some part-time billing if we need it until we're back full staffed. And then we have our ORC, or our night operator, who is actually an A certification, who is a water plant operator 3. And then we have our 3 guys that are part-time. If y'all have questions, I know it's a lot of information to look over. I will say, Thomasville and Lexington both are going through pay studies. So, things change. I believe the county is breaking theirs up into groups as well. So it is the season for that, and trying to figure out where you are and what we can do as a small town.
We got the minimum and maximum, we don't know exactly what their employees are making.
No,
Right.
that is correct.
We're in line with the minimum, but not even close to the maximum.
Right. And based on, normally when other towns start going through their pay studies is usually when people get to that medium. When we set up our pay study in 2018 with PTRC, we did the minimum and the maximum, and we were trying to get everyone to the medium for their pay grade. And so usually by the time you hit that is about a 3-year period, and then you start that pay study over. And as you know, COVID and post-COVID years, we've had to look at it more frequently. We're short-staffed, we're having to increase to maintain the current staffing we have and to hire for open positions. So we are, 5 years out, and we did a slight increase last year. And I think it's time to look at that, but it's just what direction we want to go with it. And then next year, as you guys requested, we'll do the other 3 departments, which will be our wastewater department, fire department, and the admin department. Split them up and look at them separately. I mean, it'll be easier to absorb in the budget as well with those increases.
So what are you suggesting?
I'll be honest, I really don't know, Commissioner Morris. In looking across here, we've approved our 5% developmental pay, which is based off of their evaluations at the end of the year. I know that current staffing would appreciate anything that the board feels like they can do. I would say if we can figure out how we could budget between the 5 and 7, I think that comes into.
You said the 5 was budgeted, right?
We budgeted for that for January for, after their evaluations for developmental. So that's outside of, this would increase not only our minimum and maximum pay, but it would increase them currently where they are. and that would, January would be on top of that.
In the past, in that 5% developmental pay, are they getting all of it? Is it pretty well, don't have a difference what it is, it's 5%?
There are regulations, they have to meet expectations. So each year, the department heads set goals for staffing. And there is an evaluation form that was developed along with the pay study in 2018. They have to meet expectations on their evaluations, and then the goals that were set, making an effort towards accomplishing those goals, seeing that there's improvement, seeing that they're moving ahead with those. We currently, if they meet expectations and they had no write-ups in that calendar year, then they're eligible for the full 5%. I've had questioned if we could do it on a weighted scale, and it is something that we can look into. A lot of towns do them like an electronic evaluation instead of a paper format, and each question is weighted, so they're not always, being on work on time. If you give them a 4 because they're always here, it may not carry as much weight as someone who is showing improvements in a department, taking initiatives to do
And
that.
if it's evaluated that way, then the people who deserve the raises get the raise. The way currently, it's just kind of like everybody always gets that same.
It's
I
different
don't
than,
know how to fix that.
it's a little different than a cost of living adjustment, which is COLA. A lot of the towns approved those this past budget year, and they were effective as of July 1st. And I've had that question, is why are raises not in effect July 1st with our budget year? But we set this developmental scale up in order to look at based on performance. And so even though we don't do COLA, it's still 5% if they meet expectations, they've had no write-ups. But it could be something that in the future we look at doing it as a weighted scale. So that way you could get up to 5% or as minimum as 2%,
And
between
it
2
just
and 5.
rewards the people who are truly doing
Yes,
the best jobs.
it does.
Getting
Yeah.
Is this anything that we need to make a decision tonight? Because you know me, I number crunch, and I don't want to number crunch on the fly.
I understand. It is entirely up to the board. If you would rather have some time to look at this, we can present it back at October meeting. If there's something else that you want me to factor in, I can definitely pull that information.
Is there
as
any
well.
chance of getting what some of these places, what they are making now?
I will reach back out to them when I reach
So
out to
we
them.
know what we're
Yeah.
competing with.
When I reached out to them the first time, that's the information that came back. So, some salaries are available online, but, it's getting to talk to that right person sometimes to pull those, but I can definitely, see if I can get pinpointed information.
At least you could tell us who that person might be.
Michael, your group, how do they feel?
Well, I'd just like to say this. 2/3 of my guys are worth keeping. Y'all's not gonna have much longer. If y'all will go back and review what contractors charge y'all to do this work, you're gonna find out them raises you're looking at now is the cheapest y'all will ever get out of this. Because I'm trying to teach them, we're having to work the water plant again, all that maintenance down there. $20,000 to do a land application. I mean, my guys is doing it for 5. You just say $15,000. All that metal work at the sewer plant, how much did they say? $90,000. Y'all just say $90,000 because my guys could do it in 1 year. And you gotta do another one. So actually you saved $180,000 because I had everything made double for the cost I made it. Y'all saved $180,000. All the stainless work we welded in, how much was that? 10,000? Yeah. Plus the oxidation ditch, another 15,000. Y'all start adding up what these contractors gonna start charging you when I lose all my people. You're gonna find out this race thing right here is the cheapest that y'all will ever get out of this. I mean, we're painting the water plant right now. What does painters charge?
A lot.
When were they drinking or not?
Like I say, 2/3 of my guys are worth keeping. And I'd really like to keep them because.
Once you get rid of the other one, get you a good hand.
With training people.
We, and we honestly have had to look at that, you know, their starting rates and bringing them in. And, you know, sometimes you're bringing someone in brand new who, yes, someone who's been here longer may have came in at that same rate, but it's just, that's where we are. You know, you've got to keep increasing in order, number one, to get good help and to keep good help.
The only other thing I'd like to see y'all really consider is getting rid of this comp time. Because it's killing us. You're still paying overtime, because after they get so many hours, they can request to be paid for. I mean, at least go to the, you know, if it's a set thing, you know, there's ways to pay some overtime and not do comp time. Because comp time to us is useless. Because we get enough vacation days, we can't use them. We get comp time, we can't use them. It rolls over the sick time. So I wish y'all would address something about the overtime. And I wish y'all would try to set a limit on how many hours a supervisor has to work. What do you think about that?
He don't care now.
He don't work like that.
But he did. You know, like right now, they're calling me at 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I gotta run to the water plant work. So I'm working from whatever time I get done at the water plant to 3:30 the next day. I don't get a penny for it. I mean, I'm in the town truck, it don't cost me no gas or nothing. But by the time I get up at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, I run down and work for 2 hours. Then I just sit here twiddling my thumbs till 7. You just can't go home and go back to bed. So I usually go to the shop, get around with something there. But it's just a lot of hours. There's gotta be an end to it somewhere. But if you get your guys trained, you know, that would really take a burden off. If you gotta
Start to
keep
say
the
you
same
have
guys,
anybody you can send.
where you can train them to go do something you ain't gotta go do.
Yeah.
And that is the ultimate goal, is that we're able to look at this and have the means to hire people who can do that.
Who can do that instead of him all the time.
Absolutely. And, yeah. And I think the more staff we can get at the water plant with someone who has the mechanical background and can do things that Michael's having to come do currently. I mean, we've got 3 gentlemen who are retired. They're not going out and flipping the switch to do the lagoon pumps and things like that. Raw water tank or raw water pumps not coming on. They're not going out there to do it. They're calling for help. So it's being able to staff the departments correctly so that it does take the load off of Michael and Troy and all the other department heads as well.
I will go out on a limb and say, Troy's got it pretty easy tonight, so everything I see got.
Troy's on vacation time when he leaves here.
Troy said thank you.
I will mention something that Michael mentioned about overtime. We did vote at the last meeting that you would compensate police department for overtime, and that will need to be a policy change, but I did not bring it before you tonight because I wasn't sure if you wanted to do that across the board and offer paid overtime to all staffing, or was that just looking at the police department only? So when you're full staffed, most of the time, you're not gonna have overtime. But I have had one police officer ask, could they still request to have theirs as comp time? And I don't have a problem with that if they would prefer to have compensated overtime. It's just a matter of how we track it.
Is there comp time like Michael's comp time, or boys 80 hours and it rolls over, or they can request get paid, or?
So with comp time, once they hit an 80-hour bank, anything over that, they can ask to be paid down to 80 hours. We leave it at the 80 hours so that if they have an illness or something comes up, they've got that time in there they can use, and plus their sick leave and vacation. But Michael's department has it. They have comp time, but Michael will tell you it comes and goes. They may go 3 or 4 months and never have any overtime. and then they may go 2 weeks in a row and have it several days a week. So it's very sporadic. But again, if some of them would prefer to have it as an overtime payment instead of having go into a comp bank, giving that option. And it's no more to track on our side. It's just part of the payroll process. And I'll look to Paula to make sure she's in agreement with that.
Don't look at me. I hate comp time.
See, the other thing we gotta look at is long term, well, we ain't really that long. Troy does the sewer plant and distribution collection. When Troy retires, whenever that day comes up, somebody's gonna have to take over distribution. I don't have time to do it. Somebody's gonna have to take over collection. I don't have time to do it. Somebody's gonna take over a lot of stuff. And if I take it over, I'll never leave it. So I got my guys going to school right now for collection, distribution. But it's gonna take 2 years to get them up certified where they can take it over, and they gotta learn what to do. So if we don't retain some people that pass the certifications, that's probably gonna get contracted out. Or you're gonna hire an ORC with the same certification myself and Roy have, and I don't know what that's gonna cost y'all anymore. I mean, if you find somebody's got a grade 4 biological, A distribution, grade 4 collections, physical, chemical, land application, lab, that's a $90,000 man deal. So I would soon take it off of them people and put it back to my guys, if I can get them to stay here long enough to get certified and take it over.
And we do offer incentives for them to go to the schooling and get certified. I mean, that's written up now as a job offer when they come in. What we would like for them to accomplish as far as certifications and what their increase is once they accomplish that. And if someone comes in on that track in, 2 years' time, they, on top of your regular developmental pay, they could also receive 2 increases by just receiving their certifications. It's not just certifications, CDLs is another part of that, and then someone to go to pesticide school, so that on the public works side of it, we're covering all our bases on things that are needed.
Because I think right now, y'all's paying $4,500, and you just get one person certified CDL license. And about $4,500.
It's close to that.
So you're gonna spend $4,500 on somebody, it's a shame to lose them in 6 months or a year, because you just spent $4,500 for it. Plus your school fees, your motel fees, books, certifications, the more certifications they get, the more valuable they are. It's just everything. So.
Right now at the water plant, we're looking at an ORC and one other, or just an ORC?
An ORC and one other. The gentleman I spoke to today, if it works out that he would be one to come, I kind of went through the scenario of what is going on right now, what situation we're in, and he's a very mechanically inclined. In talking with him, it sounds a lot like Michael. He's kind of had his hands in a lot of fires over the years and been able to do things hands-on and think quick on his feet. But I did explain that, with the situation that we're in, we need someone mechanically, an ORC, and an operator. So we're looking to hire 2 positions. Hopefully, they'll take care of a big chunk of it, and then we just need a regular operator.
We're still down at sewer.
Troy currently has David Nicholson, who's been with Public Works, started out as Public Works, and has moved over to Troy back in April.
Yes.
And he has gone to school and will be sitting for his exam coming up. So he's training under there. And when Troy is looking towards his retirement next year, we'll be advertising out for the ORC position there. So,
Yeah, because David's 3 years out.
yeah.
it'd be at least 2.5 years before they, if he never fails an exam,
Puts
to
your
get
name.
enough certifications to run a sewer plant.
Again, just as stated the other night, these are positions that are certified, and there's not a lot of people going into the field. So you're having to hire and train within, but it's still 6 months. Is it 6 months for your plant to in seat?
All sewer is 6 months between schools, all waters is 1 year between schools.
But okay.
You can take your school, and you can take your exam. You just can't go up a grade for 1 year, or 6 months.
Okay. So, what do you?
I mean, we don't have a choice in my book. We got to do something. We had a special meeting and we all know that. So, I mean,
Is there a recommendation for any of that? I mean, I've kind of just went all the way across the board. So, what do we look at? We'll have to look at year end.
they're gonna get 5 in January, right?
Up to.
Because that's the one that's,
It's
How many has
developmental.
not got it in the last 3 years?
2.
Okay.
But there again, it's based on, write-ups and things like that, so it's across the whole board. If you, I don't know, I lost my train of thought.
you said between 5 and 7.
That's, yeah.
And we did
and
7.
We did, and I was gonna say, we're gonna have to look at how this falls out in the budget come April anyway. We may have to do a budget amendment, we'll look at that then, but right now, our current need is for staffing.
Well, we've talked about this we talk
He's
about it all
better
the
than
time. I mean, and we know it. And I just think that I'm gonna throw the motion out that we just go ahead and do the 7%.
Second.
Any further discussion needed?
What you gonna do about overtime? You gonna address that?
Wait a minute, let's do, you wanna do
Let's-
this first?
Let's go.
Okay. Any further discussion needed? If not, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? That motion is carried. Great.
Okay, and then the question has been asked about the overtime. Would you guys want us to do that as a policy amendment to our personnel to allow for paid overtime?
I think it's just, my opinion is that it's just like we talked about with the police. That the overtime needs to be warranted, not that they,
Right.
abuse it.
And I will
that they
say,
abuse it.
Michael's guys, if they're here, it's because they're needed. It's water lines break, it's sewer lines clogged, or it's trees down or something to that effect, town flooding. So,
It's my opinion that we need to pay that.
I agree.
I mean, I just do.
and is it okay with the board that you give them the option if they would rather have it as comp time?
Sure.
Okay,
That
That don't affect us. If they like
If
it
they
better,
can
that's fine.
figure it,
okay. So, we'll go ahead and let them know that it's gonna be a change effective now, but we'll do the policy update and bring that to you just for the final approval. This, do you want to make this effective with this payroll like we did with the police department? Current hours work,
if you all can do that, if it works.
okay, we can do that.
Do we need to do a motion on the overtime or just taking on the one we already did?
Just wait until we get the policy update, but at least we know they can do that, if that's okay. Okay?
Could we put something in the policy that, Michael, just touching on what he just said, you got people, he calls them and they don't come in. That needs to be on their evaluation.
It is.
Is it not?
It is.
It
It
is?
is, and it
Just
is,
make sure you mark it right,
Well, it needs
because
to
that
be-
needs to
it
be,
needs to be documented.
that's part of their
and it needs
job.
to be a write-up.
Have y'all ever seen our evaluation board?
I have not.
And maybe we need to.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
they're
just
pretty-
saying,
they're pretty
Michael
thorough.
just doesn't like
because the
it.
evaluations through the years have definitely changed.
Michael just don't
Anywhere
like
they
paperwork.
Michael doesn't
Well-
like our evaluations, but
I make my guys
I
fill
think
one
they're
out on their own, what they think of their seal.
Yeah.
And if y'all will look at them, you'll see what I'm talking about. I make them fill one out their own for their seal, what they actually think they're doing. And then I
And that's
go
not
over it, and then
uncommon.
I have one I have to fill out.
That's what they actually advise you to do now.
Yeah,
Give it to
that's,
your employees, let them tell you.
that's not uncommon. I've done that several times.
Because a lot of times they go, well, I didn't realize I was doing it wrong. For y'all.
Ask them
But
about
they
their
fill out
goals too,
themselves,
Michael.
they see.
Right.
When you have their goals set up, ask them where they're at with that.
The goal is to be here tomorrow. That's their goal.
They all have other goals, because they
Yeah.
get them coming in the door now.
Yeah,
So-
well, your goals now, that's not under their control a lot of times. And like Ricky and Jesse, I signed them up for distribution. They only offer so many classes a year. Paula sets up her school, Paula sets up her motels, they show up for school. They
But
got
hey, you
goals.
know what? Goals can be something so simple as, goals don't have to be elaborate. Goals can be when we need somebody at night when something happens, that's a goal.
Well,
That
75%
somebody
of
can
the time I
help
don't
you
have
do
that.
that.
Most of them I can call and they'll come in anytime day or night.
And
But that's where the paid overtime is gonna benefit.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll come out a little more.
And at one time, Michael was able to set up for an on-call person, and he's got pretty good staffing right now, so he can probably get back to having that on-call person who takes the load off of him. Because once they're capable and more comfortable with their position, the more it's gonna take off of Michael as well. And that's the ultimate goal, Michael, Troy, any of the department heads, so.
And like I say, if we have to take over like we used to and do all the maintenance at the water plant and all that stuff, later on, we might request one more employee for public works.
Yeah.
Because it would take a big load off everybody. And if I get them ready to remarry.
We're still thinking about that, so, okay. I'll bring the overtime policy back to you at the next meeting.
Have we addressed anything about, Michael was asking about maximum hour for directors?
There's not, I mean, there is a new rule coming down from the Department of Labor, I don't have that in front of me, but it only addresses the salary levels, not tons, based on when a person is considered exempt. And it is raising the threshold from, a department head has to have 2 people under them being supervised that are full-time. And also a certain amount of money.
Salaries.
Yeah, it used to
I
be
think
like
it's
42,
I
but
think
now
it's
it's going,
55,000.
it's going to 55,000. It hasn't passed yet, but in looking at that, that will affect our departments as well. But there's nothing, an exempt employee, we really try hard. If we can get staffed and trained, it'll take that workload off, and it should. Where Michael's overtime or extra time, especially is coming in, is due to understaffing of the water department and all the needs that are there. So we're pushing forward to try to get that. Now, there are policies that could be drafted. You could offer department heads to bank comp time. I've talked to a town that does hour for hour. They don't offer it as overtime, but at least they let their department heads carry a 40-hour bank. In Michael's position, like you said, he doesn't take time off anyway. So does that benefit them? It's something to think about, but I think full staffing and training is going to be a lot of help there to get as much as we can off his plate.
Thank you.
Michael was the water plant doing pump work and that kind of thing. We keep that separate so we can charge handy. We used to, I think.
I usually write on my time sheet what my time's for.
So all of Michael's time is captured under the water department, regardless of what it is. Now, when the guys have been down there on the weekends doing the projects, trying to get some of the maintenance work done, that's captured under the water department. So it will go towards the cost of water.
How much is
next year.
his pay now, water versus public works?
Michael's?
Yeah.
Michael's 100% water department. We split it out. So his department is split. Michael's under the water department. His crew leader is under the sewer department. And then he has three public works employees.
Okay.
So we budget for 3 employees in public works. And then even though they're technically public works, they do the work for public works, water, and sewer. So it spreads out across both enterprise and general fund. Did I lose you on that one? Anybody? Okay. Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Any other questions on that?
Consideration of trash receptacles from Witt Investors. Sorry, okay. Approved trans system. You need to read my mind. Approved trans system. Okay, with the formerly second, Bush Hog pulled me up.
Mayor Bush Hog ain't bad, but I can take it in less than half.
There was,
I can take the Bush Hog in less than half.
it was a trailer, it wasn't a Bush Hog. It's the
Bush
worst
Hog looks
looking,
about like it.
it looked like a Bush Hog.
But y'all have seen our new tractor out mowed, right?
I have.
Is it mowing level or was that the driver?
That thing mowed great.
My goodness, all this help, thank you.
When you went up North Main Street, if you just went up 109, down 109, just, just a little bit.
That's an operator error. You gotta get used to plug that on the back and the front, you can raise the back and the front of it. And they keep forgetting to drop it all the way down with a pivot.
Okay, so Trans Systems is the company that was formerly SETI, who did our, street proposals last year. I did reach out to Chris Porter, we met the other evening, and talked to them about them, going ahead and providing a contract for them to do the full bid pack, get it pushed out to the website for all the, contractors to be able to pull the bid and submit that if they see fit. It also, so they would do the packet push out, collect the bids, provide you the information, and for the award of the bid. I did tell him it was the last approved mix of fixes list that you guys approved, and he said he would look at that, make sure he didn't have any questions or need to do any updates. And I also provided that to Labella to make sure that the water line rehabilitation is not gonna be in the same area that we're looking to do. If so, we might switch to a road that would be for the next year, so we can pull it in and just switch them from one year to the next. It is costed $5,000 then to do that. They also said that in the past, I know you guys mentioned about when we worked with Alex Creek, that he would come down and be with the contractors as they did their work. And if we wanted someone to do that, they would do that at just an hourly basis so that it's not an extended contract for that, just for an as needed. But that would be entirely up to the board. Any questions on that?
My problem is we hired them in April 22, we approved the road in July 22, and we're still not done anything yet, and we're just now finding out that they're not the ones that bid it.
Well, the bid that the contract we did with them originally in 2022 was just for them to do a road study. It was not for them to do anything else, and that was, I don't know if it was an oversight on our part or their part, but it was just to do the road study. It was not to do anything else.
But it took us a year to figure that out.
No, I told you that back in the spring of the year, that it was not for anything except for the road package or the road, current road condition study.
Mr. Kramer was trying to get in on the DOT too, and
We did. We tried to do that with,
that was
end of
the
21,
whole thing behind
22.
this.
We did. So Chris Coyer is retired from North Carolina DOT from Davidson County, and felt real strongly that if you had this list and you put it out there, that the contractors who are in our area sometimes would like to pick up additional jobs and be able to come in and bid it, and we might could have gotten a lot more work done for less money because they were already mobilized in the area. When they put it out there, no one was interested in picking up that additional work. So that fell through. But that was still outside of what SEPI at the time did. They only provided us, they did the whole PowerPoint and the study that gave you the full detail of the PCI of roads and conditions, ratings of best to worst and all of that. But that was just for the study, it was not for anything else.
I guess where I got confused was the fact that they put monetary figures with all of it. You know, this will cost this much, this will cost this much. So that's why
Right.
I thought
That they were going on
that
with
they were executing that this was a package.
Right. That was just to give you an idea of what they saw as our current needs and to look at, and I did not reprint that from last week's meeting, but, you know, they did the 3-year breakdown.
Right.
And then they went back and did the additional, because we said we would have approximately $300,000 to be able to spend. So it's really just, sometimes if they tell us that they're gonna pave, School Street, you know, how long is School Street? Well, if you know how long and the cost of it, you can kind of say, okay, we can accomplish that. So I think that's why they put the dollar value, and that dollar value was based on last year's figures as well, so.
Well, I went back in my minutes and my agendas, trying to make it make sense in my head too. But I never could find the actual contract. Is that just something that you all had and you just reported to us? Or did we get a copy of
Is
that?
that not in the packet I gave you last week? I thought I printed a copy and put with that.
The only thing that I noticed, and
Okay.
maybe it was just me,
We need a copy last week.
was
Not the contract,
basically,
just the road.
basically that this is what we were given in April. This is the thing we were given in April of
Right.
22. That's the only thing I saw, and it didn't include
Okay.
what they said they were going to do, because that's what I wanted to look to see. How did I misinterpret so
Okay.
badly?
Well, and I will say, it may not have been so much of a misinterpretation. It's just that we came from having someone who did everything, and we thought that that was the same contract.
Because I thought, I'm just gonna say, I thought that night, once we told them go with the mix of fixes and those
They were putting
roads,
it out for bid.
I thought,
That was it.
I too thought that was it.
Yeah.
I mean, I just did, so I don't know where, like you say, and it could just be because it had always been that way,
That's what we were accustomed to.
that's
Absolutely. And,
what we thought.
Commissioner Dean, I'll pull that contract and I'll email it out to you guys. But I apologize, I thought I printed it last week, so I'll print that just so that you can see what that is. But it was just for the scope of a road study.
But we didn't know it for a year.
No, Commissioner Morris, I told you in the spring.
Well, you didn't tell me from July till March.
I told you, I think I've mentioned this every meeting that we've had since then, that it has been that they were only contracted to do a
Then why didn't we
road
go ahead
study.
and bid it out?
Because I told you we were gonna bid in the fall and pave in the spring.
But that was last year.
No,
You got it in July.
no,
We were gonna,
that was under Mr. Craver who got it then, and we were going to get on the tail end of the DOTs, and that fell through. So
I
once
don't know
that
that
fell
we were
through,
I don't know that we were ever notified that fell through.
okay.
So we need to come up with Plan B. Am I incorrect in saying that?
I think it
No,
was stated.
Yeah, we knew
I
that
think,
Kelly
but
couldn't
I'm
get.
not gonna swear.
I
can
didn't.
Go back to minutes
I
and
think we
see.
knew there wasn't
We knew
enough, but I didn't know why we didn't move forward anyway.
I mean, Kelly told us in a meeting you couldn't get it on. I mean, we knew it.
But we talked about going
I missed it.
on our own, I thought. Put it out on our own, not going with state.
Because we talked about trying to get Yates and Apple about May of
this year.
23.
We talked about having them look at it and potentially, Michael and I met with Chris Coyer, and I don't recall the month, but we met with him and he said, if you have local people who would be interested in doing that, you can get them involved, get them looking at it. He said, but they put out bids, and everybody that they work with puts out bids in the fall for spring paving, which is what I reported back at that next meeting, is that we were gonna bid out in the fall and pave in the spring. And
That's
I hate to be a dead horse to death.
But that's
should
what
have
it
been
went back
all in
around to where
22.
Todd was looking at it.
Yeah.
But fall of '22, we were still trying to get on the DOT list. That's where I think there's we're missing communication somewhere. Mr. Craver was working with SEPI, so we had this come in April. He gets the list, he puts it out. It fell through in the fall of '22. So nobody picked it up, nobody wanted to pay, nobody wanted the job. So it was dead. So when Mr. Craver leaves, Michael and I meet with SEPI so I can figure out where we are on the road conditions and stuff. He said, you can't build out in the spring because people are not going to pick up jobs. They're working. They're not going to bid. You're not going to get good prices. You're not going to get good companies. So he said, bid out in the fall. That way you can be ready to roll in the spring. And that's exactly what we did.
Gates told you the same thing.
Mr. Gates told me the exact same thing.
And I know that I heard you say August, and this is September, so have we missed our window again?
No, we have not.
Okay.
What'd she say?
I was
From
under the,
August to September. Yes.
I've been under the impression we're not gonna bid it out. You know, we
Bid it
said
out.
anything over 300,000, we didn't have to bid out.
Well, at the last meeting, I explained that we've been meeting with Mr. Gates with Gates Construction and Paving because he's been doing our utility cuts and doing a lot of work here in town. And the board decided to go back to that mix of fixes and bid it out. So that was decided last week at the
Okay.
special call meeting.
So we're not gonna pay it till the spring.
Well, you can put your bids out there and then someone, if they get the bid and they want to do it immediately, as long as if it's asphalt plant is working, they can.
As long as they can. Okay.
Yeah.
As long as they can.
You know, it's, once they have the bid, you know, you just give them, I'm pretty sure we set that time frame that you want it accomplished by a certain date. And if they can do it in the fall, then I don't see any reason why they wouldn't do it. So. And that mix of fixes, you've got a lot of AST, so that'll make a difference as well.
Michael, what are Corey and them gonna do that we didn't usually do all the time? When we go Haynes down here and Yates and Apple Road to Road.
Well, it's basically the same thing, you just ride the road to a street system. Prioritize which ones is worse and which ones is better.
You have that.
So we have that.
Yes.
So what will this company do?
So this is for them
I
to
know
do
you
your
probably
bid
have said
packet.
that, but I just want to hear it again.
This is to do your bid packet, to get your mix of fixes road list that you approved last week. Again, let me say that. To bid it out, to get your bids to come back in, so you can award that bid to whoever you know, lowest, whatever. There's different types of paving that's gonna take place, so it may be that you split the bid. But, once that comes back in, that portion of this contract will be over. Now, if you want someone to come back in and go around while the paving is taking place, then we would have to ask for them to have someone on site for those times that somebody's here paving. And like I said, that would be an hourly rate, is what Mr. Poyer said.
And I've heard Mr. Yates say that's sometimes in our best interest.
Well, it makes them be honest.
Accountable. And, yeah.
Absolutely.
And
You're
you make
supposed to
sure
get-
that they're
Doing-
bidding what they say
Yes.
needed to be
Right.
done. I'm just trying to get it.
Whether it's the difference in if you're asking for an inch and a half of asphalt versus 2, someone making sure that that's what you're getting, or making sure that you're either getting the square footage, or if you're doing so much tonnage, it's that difference. And that's what they'll be checking, because whoever does the bid, wins the bid, has to provide them with tickets from where they're getting their supplies, asphalt or gravel, things like that. And then that way they can calculate and make sure that we're getting what we paid for.
And they don't take part of it on another job
Correct.
that gets in this town, not
Down the road. Or
a
somebody's driveway.
neighborhood down the road.
Correct. That's correct.
Do we have any idea of what an hourly rate would be? Did they give us any ballpark?
No, because I wasn't sure if that was something that you guys would be interested in. I think it's a great idea. Michael does not have time to do it. And, but he did not get that. I don't believe so. Let me just make sure. And it would probably be based on,
I'm about guaranteed they're retired DOT employees.
yeah, and there's so many of them in our area that they would probably subcontract with him to be able to do it.
A good one to get to do it would be Ty Singer. I got news. He's something. I didn't like him coming messing with me, but I do like him on my side messing with me.
And I can verify that so that we know ahead of time, what that rate would be, before we make that decision to use them for that purpose. But, Mr. Poyer said as soon as we have approval on this, they can get started on this tomorrow. Is there any other questions?
Yeah, I make a motion that we go trans systems, whatever, do the bid packet and also do the inspection ASAP.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. I'm glad we're on the same boat.
Stay with me, Mayor, stay with me.
Everybody's on.
Right. Consideration of trash receptacles, Witt Industries. Clerk Paula.
Okay, so we've spoken about replacing our trash receptacles throughout town. We have been contacted by Witt Industries regarding trash cans that they offer. I compared them to previous ones that I had presented, as well as we had reached out to the company that had designed and made Thomas's trash cans. Theirs came in at a range $950 to $1,000 each. I picked out these three as nicer ones. Of course, we could have ours logoed if we went with the option that is in black. The Covington and Sawgrass collection starts out at $680. If we went with the logoed cans, there are several different options, sizes, 35 to 55 gallon. Those range anywhere from $610 to $700. And there are multiple options available in colors. There's a silver, black, green, and brown. And we also had Public Works to review the ones that were being used. Most of the time, we had kind of narrowed it down to needing anywhere from 6 to 10 trash receptacles throughout town. We would probably relocate some that are out and not being utilized to other locations.
Was Covington and Sawgrass, they're the same price as that what you have?
He did say that they can start at $680. Some of the changes, they do offer a couple of different tops. Some of them were open, so I'm sure the type of top we choose. I chose these because I felt like it kept the rain and so forth out. You couldn't cram the bags in them, that type of thing. So I thought these were better options for tops on them.
Are both of these side openings or
I
top
believe the
opening?
lid comes
Okay.
off on these.
So they could still take the lid off and put it back in.
They
Household
could,
garbage.
but they could in any of them that we have.
Yeah.
You know, and the ones we have too. I have personally witnessed someone putting bag trash from their home in a trash receptacle.
Oh, they used to do the one out here.
The side of the old, the new town.
This one, how much is this one?
He did say it could range from $610 to $700 depending on how many gallons we chose. So
And the others are
that's
$680.
$680.
I like that.
This one with the flapper door on top. Have you seen it, Michael? Do you think that door will hold up 5 years? They'll be tore off?
What's it made of?
steel looks like? Would you rather have one like this? Yeah, I like that one too. I just hope the door would hold.
They are galvanized steel with TGIC powder coat finish.
It's a rough crowd in here.
You like the sawgrass? Okay.
Do they have
to like the
information?
What did he say, talk me into it?
He said, why don't you buy 10?
What color? I would have to go back and pull that, I'm not seeing it on this.
I never glass that's there. I'm good with that.
We got green everywhere else.
Root's green.
Yeah,
What'd you say you like black?
Harrison Park's
I like green.
Yeah, he said like that.
Good time.
Scotty don't care what color. You see green?
No, I don't like the black particularly.
What do we think, 10?
10, 12 even.
10? What do y'all think, seriously? Where are you looking at?
10.
Well,
What do we have the budget for?
Yeah.
so we really, we budgeted, I think we budgeted between maybe 5,000 and 6,000 because we were not sure on cost. We've been looking for them, and Attorney Whitman sent Thomasville's information to us. We reached out, and it's a little bit higher than what we had expected. But with these, you could do 10, and Paula had actually looked at a diagram of the town starting here on Salisbury, and the areas that are high traffic areas, and then looking at North Main and South Main. So we really, I think, have looked between 8 and 10 is what we thought, just to try to get the areas where people were walking or would be out and about with a cup or something new for a trash bag. Trying to avoid the areas that are a drive up and dump bag in the trash can, but that's gonna happen.
And factoring in too, we already have trash receptacles in the park, so you're not gonna want to put some right there. You're gonna go out, at least a block from those areas.
Is this something that needs a motion or just a,
So I've heard you saying the sawgrass design.
Yeah. Does it can you put a logo on the sawgrass design? That's what I
That's what, if you're wanting one with a logo,
It's gotta be
you're
this.
gonna go with the other one. And the other one comes in green as well, and I've seen different designs in it, and they do look nice. But if you want a logo, you're gonna have to go with that one. The other one doesn't have a way to put a logo on it. Unless you put it on the little
That
I believe,
Unless you-
yes.
So
There
it
are
would be-
several different colors on that
So it
one.
could be green with a white background that shows your logo or shows the town of Denton, or it could be green with whatever color behind it you want it, so it wouldn't stand out. But the other ones, because they have that ornate design, I don't think there's a way to, unless you put them on the flap. If you do the trash can flap, you just put the town of Denton on there somehow.
I just like that one because I think it looks so much different.
It
Does.
does. Yeah, it does.
Is any price break if you get 12? That's
I'm
it.
sure there are. I can probably talk to him about that. I noticed when I was looking through many of the other suppliers, they did offer price breaks after you reached a certain number. So I feel sure they probably will. I just don't have that information.
So senses of the board, the sawgrass.
What did you say?
I said this one, is senses of the board to go with the sawgrass. Is that what everybody's leaning towards?
I like that one.
I like it.
That cross
Does anybody else want?
That's fine.
I think I'm right. Blue.
Yes.
Is that what
Yes,
you're-
I like that.
okay.
For that.
10?
That's right.
10 to 12?
10.
All right. I like those, they're really nice. I think it'll dress up the area.
Town attorney update.
Did we need a motion on that? I'm sorry.
We have part of it budgeted, so if it goes over budget, we'll come back to the budget. amendment.
Okay.
The only update I had this evening was about the ordinances and what's going on with that and the current legislation that's suing, so I think we've covered all that. And then I'll have a couple more items for a closed session, but other than that, that's it for me this evening.
Any questions? No. Town manager's report.
You guys have the copy of the monthly report from the ACE, and if you look down through there, there are a lot of open cases. Paula and I met with Nicole May, who's the enforcer now. Alliance Code Enforcement has gone through some changes. I did mention that at a couple of meetings back, but Ms. May is working really hard to try to get caught up on some of the old cases that are still open. We did abate 249 Farm Brook last week. It is still an open case for violations that are still currently going on there. But if you look down through there, I mean, most of them is junk piles, overgrown lots, minimal housing, and then a lot of the overgrown lots. So by the time they circle back around, those are already taken care of. But that is the most current list. She did review all of that this weekend so that she could give us an updated list of that.
Maybe all that stuff is not on there.
Really? They should be. They put my lot on there, yours higher than mine.
We mowed everything last week.
What about some of the ones that have multiple, like 3 or 4? I mean, did those get any more attention?
It just depends on what they are. So Paula and I both have been educated on this portion of how code enforcement works. There are certain violations that they were given 10 days. They're having to increase that, let me state that first, because you have to allow for mailing time. So when you tell someone they have 10 days to abate, current mailing is taking anywhere from 5 to 7 days now, instead of 3 to 5 like it used to. So I think they've increased that to 15 days. Depending on what it is, if it's an overgrown lot, then it could go straight to having, we would have to contract with someone to go in and mow the lot. If it's other things, minimal housing, junk piles, nuisance for junk cars and things like that, you have to set a hearing. So they have their first notice, then they have a notice of hearing, and they have to come before the code enforcement. They have to state their case, whatever the violation is, what they're doing to try to make the changes to that, and request more time. And then once that's done, they have to come back at that time. So sometimes it can take a lengthy process in order to get someone finally abated. As long as someone's making a progress on property, then they're willing to extend that time. But we have a few cases in town that are not making progress. They're getting their notice and they're ignoring it, or they're just thinking that it's gonna go away, and it's not. We've had a few lots mowed this season, and we've got a list that we just turned over last week. So it is a cost for the town.
So are you putting liens?
We are.
So do you have a list of all the current liens with the town?
I will ask Derek Emery with ACE, who's the one who's been doing those. We have one that we're getting ready to do, and then I have a folder of old liens that I don't know if they're still active, but we've not had any this year outside of the one that we're getting ready to do.
So if you have old liens that were recorded, and they haven't been canceled, then they should still be out there. And one of the things that I'm doing for Thomasville right now is, Thomasville's got some larger ones, so we're pursuing whether or not we actually want to try to enforce those. But for some of the smaller ones, what we found is kind of with the real estate boom, is that a lot of times these properties have transferred hands, and the attorneys that were doing the title work were from out of town and didn't understand how the assessment situation worked, and so they didn't call to check and see if there were any assessments. So we've been able to collect some of them simply by notifying the new homeowners, hey, you have this lien on your property and you need to pay it, because they understand that it can be foreclosed if they don't pay it. And so we've actually been able to collect some of them. So if you want to send me your current list, I'll be happy. Kathy and I'll take a look at it, see if there's any we can do that for and collect that money for it.
What about the old list?
That's what I'm saying, the old
Yeah.
list.
Oh, the old list.
Yeah, we will definitely do that.
Yeah, just send it to me, we'll take a look at it. Give us a little time on it, because it's one of those things that you fill in the gaps with to figure out who owns it now. We kind of got one that they don't, but, I mean, we collected some of it
That's
for
really
Thomasville, so.
Sure, Jim.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So thank you for that. We'll get that information out to you. So looking at a couple other things, I did talk to John Fuller with architecture, Fuller Architecture this afternoon. And he's at a point that he's ready to do, he needs guidance from you guys as to how you want to proceed with the putting out for bid, looking for contractors. Do you want to only offer this to local contractors that we may know that's within the county, or you want to bid it out for anyone to give us their credentials on what, kind of how we did with the architecture? We put out their request for qualifications, and they come back in with projects they've done or completed, or what they feel like they can accomplish with this project. So if that's the direction you guys want to go with that, I'll instruct him to do that.
What, he gonna get us some estimates?
That's what he's working on. He needs to know, he said right now, he's working on the mechanical engineering part of it, is looking at where they are, where the building is currently, and what the needs are going to be for upgrades. Is it still within the guidelines of what our current guidelines are? Because once the building has been vacated and it's remodeled, you have to bring everything to code. So that's what he's looking at. And in coming back to you guys with that information, he said, just want to know which, if you want to bid out to everybody, which I told him I felt like you would, just so you have a wider range of information coming back in from different people. So if that's the pleasure of everyone, I'll forward that information to him in the morning to do that. Okay. Moving on, Commissioner Morris had some questions that he sent to me on Friday afternoon. And one is concerning the John Street project. I reached out to Mr. Yates, and his email back to me today is that it is on schedule for him to be in town next Wednesday the 13th to start the John Street footing and the head walls to get that project finished. It was not in project over the past 2 weeks due to the increase in rain and the hurricane that came through. So he said that is his goal to be here next Wednesday. The utility cuts, Michael sent him a list of those, and he's working also to get a crew down here to get those done. So we've got several around town and several more today that Michael's guys repaired earlier today. Let's see, I spoke to Heather Miller this afternoon regarding the projects that we have ongoing with Slabella. So, let me see. We've received all of our state information back in. I think she sent it out the last one. Sorry, I'm having a look at this. So we got our final approval from DEQ, which was for our bar screening at the sewer plant. And then I asked her the question regarding the other projects that we have in process. She said that based on the information for Spring Street, that she's looking at Spring Street Pump Station currently having 9 homes on it. I know that we're in the process of having Broad Street almost complete. We assume that there are, each house is a 4-bedroom with 120 GPD, making the current demand 5,400 GPD or a 3.8 GPM. The additional demand in development would be 14,400 GPD or 10 GPM, bringing the total average daily flow after completion of the development to 13.8. This is less than the 35 GPM pump station rated capacity, so the pump station should be fine for the daily average daily flow. But of course, the real life flow would not be uniform, and we can typically expect peaking factors, and there are about four of the small pump stations like this. After the peak factors are involved, peak flow of 55 GPM, which is higher than the 35. If the pump station is empty, assuming the water surface is 3 foot from the bottom of the well manhole, then there would be about 9 foot of storage before an overflow would occur. The pump station may be fine as it is because the peak flow periods may be much shorter than a 42-minute span. But it is possible that they are longer and their peaking factors are higher than 4, so we assume especially during a rainstorm, that would increase the water levels in there. She also said that based on the study, that studied further to define the demand and the peak factors to design pump station upgrades to meet the new demand. And this would probably be just to install the pumps with a higher capacity and then leaving everything else basically the same. But she's not sure without the real data and not knowing and monitoring the pump station as demand increases. Or she said doing nothing and then monitoring this as it increases. She's also the water rehab line extension for the section of Carroll Avenue, Vernon Avenue, Noel and Bench Avenue in that area. That's part of that process, and she is sending out the bid packets for that. So that should be coming back to you guys for approval soon. I don't have a date as to when they are due back. That wasn't included in her email back to me. The other project, they're working on the generators now. They've installed the one at the raw water pump intake and then the one at the water plant. The statement from the gentleman to Michael was that it was still in production, which has been over a year now. So, and then there's one other project, and it has left me. I thought I printed it all off, but I did not. It's the final paperwork for that project. I cannot remember what it is. It is to be sent off this week. She's waiting on. She had to get a serial number from us for one of our report planning. So I sent information back to her today to verify all of that. Like I said, I did meet with Jason today, kind of go over all the projects that are needed at the water plant. Michael and his team have been down there working, doing maintenance on the weekend. They're also working on that, looking on the right-hand side and kind of get it cleaned out, and we're gonna have to do a revamp project on that. But it's all in process. It takes time, so I don't know. I know I'm forgetting to tell you about something. But
Was the hydraulic study in with that?
oh, that was the other thing. Thank you. She said,
She's a real person, if you would ever seen her.
yes, she is a real person. She is, so the hydraulic study, they are waiting on, and they've got to get everything mapped out. They took all of Michael's mappings and they've trying to put them together. So it's a matter of knowing where everything is in order to know what could potentially be the problem. Once they have that mapped out, then they can come in and centralize the area. Part of those water lines were part of the water line rehabilitation that we sent in, and going from a 2-inch to a 6-inch, and a couple were listed in the Broad Street, Spring Street area had already been updated. So she's trying to get the state to let us add streets that potentially have 2-inch to upgraded for that were not accounted for the first time around. So I don't have a date on when that would be, but it's just a matter of getting that mapping done in order to get that done. And I do know that we have houses going, but it's always a hurry up and wait with everybody. The 109 extension project, Summey Engineers working on it, and Matt Summey and I can't think of Bobby's last name right off the top of my head, but they came down to give us an update on the easements that they're going to have to look at. So they're reaching out to the property owners to see if we can get an extended easement on those. So that'll be coming back to Attorney Whitman as soon as I get those for review. And I don't think there's anything else that I can look at. I'll just stay here. If y'all want to go ahead and do comments and concerns, we'll move right on.
I did notice in the old minutes that we talked about animal ordinance,
For, I'm sorry.
cats. I think you talked about looking at, see what the counties try to mirror ours or whatever.
Cats are such a difficult situation, but we have an abundance of problems with it. Let me make a note of that to follow up on.
And also we talked about doing some sort of ordinance so you couldn't build a factory in the residential district.
Do you recall which meeting that was? I apologize. So factory in
February 6th,
residential.
I think.
February 6th, because that was when you were talking about the subdivision ordinance, and you were working on rewriting that, and I think that's when Commissioner Morris said something about, can we have it so that an 8,000 square foot building cannot be built in residential?
Oh, I do recall that. Okay. So that would fall under that rewrite of the subdivision ordinance and probably an update to your zoning ordinance. The situation with the property that I notice is with reference to is that their square footage of their parcel allows for that size building because it currently says it cannot be over 35% of the property, and because they have a large parcel, they have the space. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what someone wants in their backyard. I understand, but I'm not quite sure how we can rewrite that to accommodate the 35% because it does that for, I believe that's an R15 residential area. So we'll look at that and see. But
I can look at it and see too.
I think it's, and it's mirrored off of the counties as well, because it's under that 160D rewrite that we did. But we'll definitely look at that. Okay. Commissioner Bean, you had some other questions?
Yeah, the subdivision ordinance. I know that I attended some of the meetings, and you had worked through some of it, and they were just they were going through in rubber stamping. Is that still happening?
It is. So we've not had any business before the Planning and Zoning Board, and so I'm working through that subdivision myself, and I told we won't have a meeting this month because we don't have business, and I let them know that probably the October meeting that they will have the draft for them to go back through. So at that point, it'll still be, they can make changes, make recommendations to that, and then after that meeting, it would probably come back in November for their approval. We'll have a public hearing, and then you guys would hear it in December. But it does take a public hearing for the changes for that.
Also in that February 6th meeting, we talked about changing the ordinance, allowing alcohol for special occasions. I mean, for, in Harrison Park, in the farmers market area and the Civic Center, I believe. And so I didn't know, did that come and we approved it? Because it was piecemeal, I just didn't know if we did.
I think we did a complete rewrite, and it was presented to you as a rewrite then.
Okay.
And so, from what I recall from reviewing the minutes, it was that anyone who wanted to apply for the permit had to be associated with a nonprofit.
Right.
It has to come before the board for approval right now. Or a couple other things, but I'll pull out that section of the ordinance and I'll email it out so that you have a good copy of that.
And then with planning and zoning and parks and rec, we're at least one member down.
We are, and I have been putting out fillers for people to fill those positions. I just mentioned last week that we need to go ahead and advertise out there's an open position on both boards. So if you guys know of anyone who would like to serve on any of those, either board, please let me know. It is, both boards are unique in their own, and Parks and Rec's definitely a hands-on board, but planning and zoning, when they have stuff before them, as you well know, it is needed for them to be in attendance. So,
And is there an attendance policy for those boards?
there is, we approved that at one of the meetings, maybe the April 6th meeting, that we approved that. They have to attend.
I think planning and zoning has had it for a while.
They may have had a portion of it. I think we just did a slight update to that. So with Parks and Rec, they have a member who hasn't been present, and that's the replacing seats that we're looking for. I'm pretty sure that makes it 6, because we adjusted the members from
8 to 7.
8 to 7. So they,
And so I've got the chair, Becky White, Susan Craven, whose attendance is not every meeting, but is there some? Dennis Chapman's there, Rosemary, I don't know her, like Cranford. The gentleman I never could remember. Sam Grimes.
Yeah.
Those 5 are
yes.
there. Lauren, I've only seen one.
Yes, so she has not been to the last several meetings. She's actually, was a former school teacher, but she's going to be LET for High Point Police Department right now, so she's not able to attend those, so we'll be looking to replace that seat.
Okay.
So they were one short, and
So that
hers being
makes them 2
replaced,
short.
that makes them 2 short.
Okay. Like I say, just reading those minutes just made my brain just kind of like think about stuff. And then also the same thing with Parks and Rec, Planning and Zoning, Tanya Holt's position, correct?
Yes.
We changed that to a 5-member board. I thought we talked about it.
We talked about that. Commissioner Morris, let me verify that from our minutes. I just read through this, and it would be in that same April 6th meeting. I think 10-3. So we had increased that in 2018 when Keith Laughlin came on and Carter Burns at the same
They came at the
time.
same time.
And that
That's when
made
we
it,
increased it.
okay. I know it was mentioned, but I can't remember if it was mentioned but not voted on. If not, we can definitely look at that at the next meeting.
And am I remembering correctly that, this is from the April 3rd meeting, the Handy Sanitary District Manager was supposed to come in May, but then he ended up, y'all did some other meeting and he didn't come, is that?
Well, and I know that in reviewing all of those minutes, so we had our quarterly meeting with them at Handy and presented to them that he was gonna come and present to the board what their intent was with the extension of the water lines for Albemarle. And then also, what they were looking at with their pumps, and was questioning being able to supply them with enough water for their needs during the summer and also moving forward. And so we met with our quarterly meeting, Mayor Ward and Commissioner Grove were there, and we stated to them that we'd like them to come. And so he sent the email. He said, see if this will answer any questions that the board may have. So I presented that information back to you. Commissioner Mars asked for us to have a joint meeting with their board and our board. And at the time, it was not something that, because of an illness of one of their board members and the feeling that from Mr. Hannon that their regulations in advertising, that it would not warrant for them to be able to have this joint meeting. I assured him there would not be a problem with that.
He was fine when he wanted to have one with us.
Well,
He didn't have no trouble that time.
so, but I did present that back to him 2 or 3 times, and but he did, give us the breakdown of what they do have going on. And I think at the meeting, you guys felt comfortable with being that it was shared, and I know that sometimes it's good to have everybody have the same information, but, for whatever reason, like I said, they do have someone who was,
Every time we ever get in trouble with them, it's like communication, every time.
so,
That deals with my questions, thank you.
you're welcome. Does anybody else have anything for myself or any departments that are here?
This time we need a motion and second to go into closed session.
I make a motion, we go into closed session.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. So we're now in closed session.